Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ali Aouni, and it's really a pleasure to have you, to host you with us today in a Gerhard Center webinar, part of the aftermath of the COVID-19. It's a great pleasure to host with us, to have our speaker now, Anil Gupta. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Anil Gupta. If I want you to remember one thing about him, he's really a guru and a very high promoter of the concept of grassroots innovation. Now, when you talk about grassroots innovation, those are innovation that's done by people at the base of the pyramid. It's very pragmatic. I mean, the purpose is to solve a problem. And usually it is very frugal in nature. Now, Anil is going to tell us more about it. Anil is also a founder of a network. It's called the Honeybee Network. It's a very nice analogy when you think about innovation. Think about a honeybee. A honeybee would collect nectars from different flowers. It's a source of innovations. And it will sort of collect them together in honey. That's the output. That's the innovation output that you will get. So he has a network called a Honeybee Network. The other thing about Anil that I want to mention is that he was a full professor at the Indian Institute of Management at Ahmedabad. He retired in 2017. Currently, he's a visiting professor. Now, without much ado, I want to pass it to Anil. Anil is going to talk for about 20-25 minutes. He has some slides he's going to share with us. If you have any questions, please send it by the chat box to one of the co-hosts. We're going to compile the questions and we're going to ask them to Anil. Anil, floor is yours.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you. I really appreciate your invitation and hope that this conversation will bring new volunteers to the Honeybee Network and will also bring new friends who believe that the philosophy that we have followed of cross-pollination of ideas is essentially the philosophy of keeping nature alive and intact. So basically, whatever forces help nature to work well are the forces which will also help us to connect with each other. And I will share some of the slides, but please appreciate that if there is very strong reason to ask a question in between, if that's fine, I would not mind an interruption. I can deal with that. What are we trying to say? What are the key arguments that we are making? Let me start with the title of the talk, which is leveraging the entrepreneurial potential of economically poor but knowledge-rich grassroots innovators. We are passing through a difficult time. COVID-19 is going to stay with us. The virus is going to stay with us. Pandemic will end. And we will start our lives, but it will not be the same life. The people who have suffered the most in the epidemic are the people who have least to bear, that is the laborers, the working class. And we must now ask ourselves as to how do we look at the working class in terms of their strengths. So my first question is, are poor in wealth also poor in mind? You know, we have, it's a caricature. Way back in 2006, on the cover page of Honeybee, I used this cartoon to say that parliamentarians, the politicians, the policymakers often believe that poor people can only break a stone, you know, do the menial work, not mental work. So the first transition, the first departure that Honeybee Network is trying to make in its philosophy is we should not consider work only as menial, but also mental. And poor people are not just poor, they are only poor in wealth, but they are not poor in mind. And I will try to show you. And that brings me to the challenge, which is a change not monitored is a change not desired. If I do not track the creativity of common people, that means I don't wish it to happen. And it is very difficult, I must tell you, that in most countries, when you start looking for databases on innovations by common people, it's not easy to find. So we must ask ourselves as to why are we not monitoring this change? So essentially what we're trying to do is to give voice visibility, and velocity to the creative people in the formal informal sector. A nameless, faceless person, if you see this logo, comes in contact with the network, gets an identity. And this identity is what we have been giving to the people all these years. So let us look at what a very interesting group led by Atif Mazhar in Egypt is trying to do. I hope I'm pronouncing the site again correctly. Hopon.net. What has he done? He has asked people to contribute their ideas from Egypt and the Arab world, and he's trying to connect them. He's an individual, but he has many team members who are trying to bring together people who are having ideas. But these are ideas for grassroots. So we must distinguish innovations for grassroots from innovation from grassroots. Innovation for grassroots are the innovations by professionals, educated youth, seniors, professors, companies, public, private, civil society organizations who are trying to solve the problem of grassroots. So this is the site of this person who has designed this, and he's looking at different innovations done by people, young students. So for example, this Talat has done this water bottle which has a filter in it, and it also has a battery so that it can circulate the water, purify that. He tried 7, 8, 9 models and essentially found this solution. Now, this is a very useful innovation, but obviously it may not be afforded by the poorest people, but it nevertheless is important. And we need this, but we don't need only this. What I'm trying to say is the focus has been far too much on outsiders solving the problem of common people. But innovations from the grassroots, ideas, innovation from informal sector, and sometimes the outstanding traditional knowledge of one place may be innovation for another place. Ideas of children, ideas of mechanics, ideas of householders, workers, farmers, pastoralists, all of these have a great deal to contribute to the growth and development of our society. Let us look at this example. There are hand pumps in many parts of Africa, and we also have them. But the problem with the design of the hand pump is that those who drink water can't hold all of it in their hand. Water spills over. So what did one innovator do? He put a small pipe for drinking and a bigger one for filling the bucket. And still, if some water spilled over, and cattle can drink water from this trough. So when we talk about inclusive innovation, we're not talking about inclusive innovation only for human beings, but also for animals, the birds, the squirrels, the ants. We should look at innovations that provide sustainable environment for all of them. And then only this innovation system will become truly participative, truly inclusive. This is another example where one hand pump can give water to 6 children at the same time. Very affordable solution. Doesn't cost more than $5, $7 and easily can be made anywhere. It's an open innovation. So what are we looking for? How do we search these innovators? So in this picture, metaphorically, this duck that you see, she's moving in a different direction than the rest of them. We're looking for this duck. We were looking for this fan. The one who is odd, the oddball, the different from the rest. If everybody is moving in this direction, she's moving in this direction. And we are looking for such people who are creative and sometimes can't conform to the norms that group has. They're not conformist. They're non-conformist. And how do we look for them? We search and go to look for them in different parts of the country, walk with them, walk in the regions. We call them show the learning walk. So I have walked in every part of the country, more than 6,000 kilometers. I have walked. Summer we go to the places which are hot. Winter we go to the places which are cold. Deliberately we go in such regions. So let us see what do these people tell us. How do we learn from these people? So this is one database that is open access. Anybody who can scan this will get access to all our databases, farmers' practices, medicinal plants, livestock, horticulture, various kinds of innovations. So we believe in open innovation. Let people have access to the database, let people share that. If it helps you, you share it with others, and that's what will help. So let me give an example how we don't merely document knowledge and innovation, but also wisdom. So I was talking in a particular Chodhyatra in dry region of our country, arid region, And I was telling why people should not use chemical pesticides and try to use botanicals, plant-derived herbal pesticide. And a farmer got up and said, well, we understood what you're saying. And I said, what am I saying? You are saying that all plants which animals don't eat are the potential source of herbal pesticide. Now, it took me half an hour to say what I was saying, and he summarized in one line, why don't animals eat them? Because they are toxic. What do you need to control pest? Toxicity. So then why buy it? Why can't you make your own herbal pesticide? Now, this is applicable in Egypt. This is applicable in Morocco. This is applicable in US. This is applicable in Europe. It's applicable everywhere. This is heuristic, a thumb rule that you need toxicity to control the pest. Look for plants which are toxic and use them, and then you will be able to find solutions for them. So just an example, these are all the plants which are toxic: neem, Aristolochia, Zaricta, Abomia, and you can make pesticides out of that. Very simple, not a very great technique. Now look at this example. So this person, Jignesh, is a physically challenged person, and he is a wheelchair-bound person. We have wheelchair-bound person in every country, but they can't go very far unless they have a specially made car for them or somebody else who lifts them and put them in the car. Jignesh is autonomous. He boarded this three-wheeler, which he had designed himself, and now he is autonomous. His Freedom, your Freedom Wheels is his email address here. Freedom on Wheels, you can search on the net, you will find it on YouTube. And he has made himself autonomous and independent. So this is the way farmers can solve problems, urban mechanics can solve problems, physically challenged people can solve them. So we had this motorcycle which was used as a plow. Motorcycle is a plow. And you can attach different devices. You can use it for spraying pesticide. You can use it for plowing. You can use it for interculture. You can use it for weeding. You can use it for transportation. You can use it for different things. It was transferred to Kenya. And there's another farmer there who adapted it to local conditions. Similarly, we have an example of a groundnut peanut digger. Now, what is beautiful here is that one person who developed, Yusuf, developed in Sikar this device. Another person in Visakhapatnam, which is a coastal area towards the eastern side of our country, and Rajasthan is toward the western side of our country. He said, why can't I make a sea beach cleaner out of this? Sea beach cleaner will lift the soil, stir it, all the debris will be collected on the mesh, and the sand will fall down. So you can use examples of metaphorically. The innovation for groundnut had nothing to do with sea beach cleaning, but you can learn from that as example and use it in a different context. So there's a huge potential. One should not undermine an innovation saying, look, I don't have use for it. You may not have use for that innovation, but you may have use for the principle or the method or the process underlying that innovation. And you can use it in a different sector, different space, different social group. So let's look at cross-cultural diffusion of innovation. So here is an example from Uganda as well as from Tehran. In Tehran, we found that the cobs were roasted with the skin on. In our country, the skin is removed by the cobs on the left-hand side, and then you roast it. He made his device where each cob is roasted alone, and then the nutrients of the skin, the leafy skin, come in the grains. So then you eat this cob, you get more nutritious. Look at this example, another stove which was found in Tehran again. Look at this world kind of holes in the stove. This is more efficient than the conventional stove that we have in the gas, because this gives more heat to the vessel. So with the same amount of energy, we can get more heat transfer to the vessel. So small improvements can make so much design difference. Outer gravitas in Uganda, he increased the shelf life of sweet potato by using lantana leaves. So there are innovations of this kind which are from all over the world that we can see. Look at here. There was an innovation in Maharashtra. A farmer has used a cycle to plow to weed this field, Gopal Bhai say. In China, different provinces of China, they are trying to develop the same solution. So what I'm telling today is, should Egypt, should the North African countries, should Morocco, should Senegal, should other countries in the region, Ethiopia, whichever, should every country rediscover the wheel? Should we find solutions for every problem by ourselves? That's not the best use of our resources. And that is not the best way of making our society progress. But this is what is happening across Himalaya. China, innovators in China are struggling with the same problem that our people are struggling, and they find sometimes similar solution. Sometimes they find different solution. And let us see an example of that next. Now, here is an example where a farmer in China faced a problem. He had a boat in which he carried the produce to the market. On the way, there was a lake. So what did he do? He converted boat into a vehicle. In our country, a farmer, a mechanic in Kerala wanted to make a car float in the water. Now, this is more costly. This was more frugal. Sometimes same problem triggers frugal solution in one country, more costly solution in another country. Honeybee Network is trying to connect them so that the frugal solutions which are frugal not for customer, but frugal also for the Mother Earth, for the environment, frugal for the future generation. So frugality must be for future generation, frugality must be for the environment, frugality must be for the customer. All the three frugalities must be blended in one. This can be done very easily by sharing knowledge with each other. So let us look at some conceptual, some institutional models before I come to the innovation by children, which is a very favorite subject of mine, because if we can start mapping the creativity of the children, we can move much faster. So what happened in this case, we were walking in Bengal, eastern part of our country, and we found these terracotta horses underlying a tree. So we asked the potters, why did you keep such beautiful terracotta horses under a tree? Somebody can break it, somebody can make it, somebody can take it. They said, Professor, you didn't understand our point. I said, what is my point? What is the point I missed? We have not kept the most beautiful ones. We have kept the best ones. Why did you keep the best one? Because when our children go to the school in the morning, they walk by this street near this tree. They should know what the current standard of the best in the village is. They must do better. Open source standards of excellence, pushing our children to do better than what we could do in our generation, in our whole life. And that's what propels the society to improve its quality, its innovation potential. So we must be very careful about this. Let's look at another example. This is, again, another way of looking at how society overcomes the inertia. So we have knowledge. Knowledge is so much. Feelings are this much. And doing, the action is this much. The gap between knowing, feeling, and doing is increasing. We are lacking empathy. And if we bring this gap, we close this gap, the innovations will become more empathetic. They will become more samvedansheel, more concerned with the pain of others. So look at this. This girl sent an idea. Her grandfather couldn't use the walker on steps. She said, can you make the legs of the step adjustable? She didn't do anything. She was at that time in 8th class. Shalini now is in college. So our team made this innovation. Team in IF. The front legs become taller when you come down, shorter when you go up. Now it has been given to a company. The product has gone to the market. She has got the right signing amount, and she will get the royalty on the sale of every walker. It's a universal product. Walkers in Egypt, walkers in USA, walkers in UK, walkers in every country don't have the flexibility that we have been able to get thanks to the idea of this child. Another child we met 2006 in Malaysia. I was talking to the Malaysian Innovation Foundation, and they were looking for the same problem. And I said, let's go to a school. And we went on the spot, just in our notice, we went to a school, Charlam, and met this creative boy, Nuruddin bin Abdul Aziz. And he said, why can't we have a projector in the knife? Mind you, 2006. In 2009-10, first handheld projector was developed in a mobile phone. He was ahead of the time by 3 or 4 years. Kids can see the needs which we have not seen, and therefore listening to the kids and their ideas is terrifying. Look at this example, a posture correcting chair. Many times we are not sitting properly. So we have pain in our back, lower back. Many of the professionals I've had, after every third year, I used to have back pain. So this chair was conceived by Kulsum Rizvi from Lucknow and Tarun from Ardoi. They said, if you don't press the pressure sensors on the back of the chair, then the chair will not let you do work. It will give you an alarm. Or if in the front you have a sensor, camera, which will see your posture. If you're not sitting properly, it will not let you work. Screen will go blank. Message will come. Sit properly. I will not let you do work. I think all of us need that kind of a chair correction. So there are different kinds of approaches for mind to market. Here is a case where a herbal pesticide was developed. And what have we done? We have put the name and the photograph of the innovator on the package. Then we give this technology to the company. Company agreed to do that. Because we said people should know how many products in the market you can find where name of the inventor, name of the innovator is given on the package. Hardly any. But we must create new ethics. The market should become more ethical in the future so that the creative people who solve problems get identified and are recognized on the package. This was the formulation for the typhoid. It was patented in US with the help of a company, KLNG, Tom Turano, our dear friend. He did not charge us a penny for filing patents in US. Most of the attorneys have not charged us for the time. We have developed herbal fruit ripener, herbal pesticide. All of these have been developed by pooling the best practices in lab that Srishti has. Srishti and Gyan have been in the vanguard of grassroots innovation movement. And I will tell you how in different times they have contributed. So finally, I am coming towards the end. Mind on the margin are not marginal minds. I've said that in my book in 2016. And there's another book that I came across way back 100 years ago, Fortune in Formulas for Home, Farm, and Workshop. And in 1943-46, they also tried to put knowledge of people together. So different countries at different times have tried to learn from people, but this flow doesn't continue. It stops in between. And that's when the downward spiral begins everywhere. So we somehow have to find a way, and Honeybee Network is trying to seek partnership with all such groups, all such individuals, all such NGOs, all such institutions, which would like to build a bridge between people's knowledge and the knowledge of the community. This is what Gyan does. Gyan was set up in 1997 by Honeybee Network. Srishti was set up in 1993. Innovation, investment, enterprise. Innovator does not know where the investor is. Investor does not know where the entrepreneur is. How do we reduce transaction cost of all the three so that they can meet? Innovator by himself or herself cannot do that. I had gone to a slum of garbage collectors on the outskirts of Cairo. When Dr. Ali had invited me there, and I found that there was a lot of jewelry they made, beautiful jewelry the women made, using the clips on the beer box. Clips on the beer box. So when you open the beer on the top, that clip was taken out, and by using that as an embroidery, used for the embroidery purpose, they had made beautiful garments, purses, and many things. Now, how do they get investors? How do they get entrepreneurs who will make the global value chain for their product? And this is where we need to find solutions for that. So this triangle is very critical. You have to make innovation formal, informal to be put together, investment, intellectual, material, financial, enterprise, economic, social, cultural, and ecological, various kinds of enterprises we have to put together. So we are talking about frugality, we are talking about sustainability, and we are talking about inclusiveness. Please remember, 1 rupee of 1 cent sachet, a plastic sachet in which you have a shampoo or hair oil or something, looks very frugal. But it is not sustainable because the cost of collecting that waste plastic from, in our country, 650,000 villages is very high. So it could be frugal and inclusive, but not sustainable. We need all the three. We want solutions to be frugal, sustainable, and inclusive. And they should also have a supply chain which makes it accessible, affordable, and available. There's no point in having a solution which is accessible and affordable, but not available. So let us just conclude by summarizing. There are 6 key conceptual transformation innovations are imperative when constraints are overbearing. So many different designs have come out all over the world for maintaining physical distance. Unfortunately, the physical distance should not lead to social distance, but we are using the wrong term, social distance. The right word is physical distance. People have designed Bluetooth sensors on the belt so that if anybody comes within 2 meters of yours, you will get an alarm. And various other methods that have been used. Innovations are not visible because we may be looking for them in wrong places. The students, scholars, everybody can be a partner in looking for creative people. Innovation may not always be recognized because people don't think that they have done an innovation. They think they have solved a problem and moved on with their life. So we should recognize that inclusive innovations are also very empathetic solutions. They emerge from deep personal immersion. We should all connect to the grassroots to be able to feel the pain that people experience so that we can generate such inclusive solutions. And as I said just now, frugality for consumer is not always for the nature. So it should be for the nature and frugal generation as well. Then it is frugal. So what we are trying to do, we are mapping, monitoring, and mentoring the hotspots of creativity. Mapping, monitoring, and mentoring the hotspots of creativity all over the world. We are trying to look for them. Creativity is, of course, not uniformly distributed. Not all creative ideas become innovation. Not all innovations are desirable. Many times people use dynamite to catch fish. It's a very non-sustainable innovation because it kills small fish and also the big fish. We don't want such solutions. So please don't think that all grassroots innovations are desirable. Some are not. And of course, we don't learn from outside, we will not learn from within. Those who are in companies or organizations, please remember that. Recognizing, respecting, and rewarding innovation creates a culture of innovation. We must recognize, we must respect, we must reward. Frugality is not just for poor. All of us need to value. Look at how 25, 30,000 years ago in cave painting, this painter is telling us how to draw a human figure, make a triangle, then put a triangle, make a cross, make a triangle, then another triangle and circle. And Egypt, 4,000 years ago, the language was very graphic. Now we are coming back to emojis. We are becoming frugal. We don't want to write a long sentence, just an emoji to express our feelings. So I will again repeat, a change not monitored is a change not desired. If we want sustainability, we must remember technology is like word, institutions are like grammar, culture is like thesaurus. We need all the three. We need all the three to develop sustainable solutions. There are the 3 pillars of sustainability, which we need to emphasize and always take it forward. We can learn from technologies artifactually, analogic, heuristic, and gestalt. When groundnut digger was made into a sea beach cleaner, it was analogic learning. When we use the principle underlying the innovation and convert into a new solution, that is heuristic learning. And gestalt is, of course, the whole ecosystem of it. We have many databases. Techpedia.in has a database of 200,000 engineering projects by 550,000 students. It is all open. Similarly, another database is gyan.org, gian.org/patent.php. It has 0.8 million open access, abundant patents from US PTO. Zaigam Khan and Devika Kaushal, 2 of my former students, have made this database and put together for the benefit of the humanity around the world. We give awards. Ghanaian Young Technological Innovation Award, 2018, our president gave these awards. In 2019, our former vice president gave this award. So, of course, last innovation playground is, you have 2 dimensions of it. You can inside out and outside in. Inside out means, do I want to share my ideas with others? Outside in is, do I want to learn from outside? If both are low, you are behaving like an ostrich. If outside in is high, but inside out is low, you are like a sponge. Many crowdsourcing innovation efforts are like this. We source ideas, but we don't tell them what we did with the ideas. If outside in is low, but inside out is high, outside in is low, but inside out is high. Tesla, which put all its patents in open source because people can then benefit from it. And when both are high, that means I want to learn from others and I want to share from others. This is what Honeybee Network does. That means large heart, big mind, and big heart. Dil bada, dimag bada. We need both of them to be large. Open heart, open mind. That leads to this solution. We should remember that grassroots innovations are not jugaad, not shortcut. That will not take us very far. Shortcuts are futile. We must not focus on them. We must look for durable solutions. So let me come to the close by saying, how do we collaborate? How do we bring our students, scholars become more empathetic? How do we link innovation, investment, enterprise globally? Can an innovation from Egypt can join hand with entrepreneur from India, an investment from Germany or from South Africa or anywhere? So each of the dimension of each vector of the triangle, innovation, investment, enterprise, need not be in one place, one person. It could be globally. So we are trying to make global GYAN, global grassroots innovation augmentation network, which will bring the three forces together. And of course, we are very keen to share our experience with Egyptian communities and other communities, entrepreneurs, women, farmers, mechanics, academics, policy planners, because we believe that the curriculum of the students must include examples of solutions by less endowed people. If they can do it with much less education, why can't we do it ourselves? So it sometimes shames us, it sometimes provokes us. So that is how 30 years ago, Honeybee Network started the tradition of learning from below. Bottom of the economic pyramid, please remember, who are not at the bottom of all pyramids, they're only at the bottom of economic pyramid. When it comes to innovation pyramid, when it comes to ethical pyramid, they're at the top. So learning about how knowledge systems, how poor people are rich in knowledge and not poor, leveraging, that is when the Sashti came in 93, and then came GYAN, which is linking, and then came NIF to legitimize. Now, this is the journey that we have had. Creativity counts, knowledge matters, innovations transform, and incentives inspire. Not just individual incentive, but also collective incentive. And not just material incentive, but also non-material incentive, recognition, respect, honor. So I'll stop here and invite your questions. Ali, I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Anil, for a very, very fruitful discussion. If you have questions now, please write them in the chat box to one of the co-hosts, and we compile them, and then Kariman is going to ask Anil directly. In the meantime, I have one question for you, and it's more of a, I'm seeking your opinion. There is a very heavy trend nowadays for the last at least 10 years, and it seems to be going strong, of entrepreneurship in universities. Now, when you look at entrepreneurship in universities, and I'm sure the IIM have also this kind of a thing, even social entrepreneurship, it tends to be more elitist. It tends to be more top-bottom. And they tend to sort of, I mean, and I don't want to be sort of, you get people with a very diversified background, with a very good connections to the community. You take them away from the community and you form them into a very similar, focused way of doing things, which you lose. You're losing the diversification and you're losing the context to the community. Now, my question to you, because I've noticed, for example, that all your initiatives are platforms that you formed away from academia, even though you're an academician. How would you get academia to sort of jump into this kind of a bandwidth? To understand that in a country like India, I could have, for example, 100 million good entrepreneurs, but I have 1 billion plus grassroots innovators. So the numbers, I mean, even if you give me 10% of the impact, there are at least 20 more of them. So this is my question.
It's a very relevant question, and I would say that there is a struggle because management institutes are elitist. We get some of the brightest students from around the country, some from abroad, and they don't try to become entrepreneurs soon after passing out, but after some years they do. Some of them do, 10%, 5%, 15%. But immediately, because of the loans that they take for their education, it prevents them from taking too much of risk. We need to find a solution for that. So some institutions have tried to pay back the fees if they set up a startup in the first year after they pass out. And I think we need more such avenues, more such incentives to encourage students to take risk soon after they pass out, or even before they pass out, they should start dating. In my course on creativity, innovation, knowledge network, and entrepreneurship, CNE, I try to force students, or at least push them towards setting up, at least some of them, to set up their own enterprises. Some of them do the testing and all that, but may not continue with it, which is fine. At least they got the idea as to what they would like to do when they get courage to do that. But at the grassroots level, people have no choice. They have not much to lose anyway, because there's not much wealth they have. So they have to experiment. They have no choice but to experiment. And sometimes when their experiments succeed, it becomes innovation and leads to entrepreneurship. We must, however, recognize that aspirational society today, because of education, because of other things, a lot of poor people, their children want to set up their own enterprises. They want to be their own bosses. So we set up one fund called as Micro Venture Innovation Fund, MVIF, in 2003 in collaboration with the Small Scale Industries Development Bank of India. And now this fund is working with GYAN. So GYAN and SIDBI have a new partnership under which we give loans under single signature, no co-obligant, no collateral, no stamp paper. Just on a simple paper, you sign up. This is your idea. This is how you want to take it forward. Here is the money. Start. So if we create a low transaction cost system of investment in ideas of the people, that is the way to go. We know, we have heard about microfinance. Microfinance is for goods and services for which market exists. Microventure finance is for goods and services for which market does not yet exist. We need to create such funds. You should write to your elite students, high net worth individuals, and if they contribute $1 million each, one can easily make 5 million, 10 million, whatever amount of fund for investment in ideas of people which solve problems of society, but which are risky because they have not been tried before. And in such cases, we should be able to provide them risk capital. So risk capital, MVIF, is one way to go forward for encouraging entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Anil. Kariman, do you have any questions?
Sure. Okay, we have a couple of questions. The first one is, one of the challenges to work on product-based innovation of the grassroots level is the time needed to develop a product is quite high. How do we sustain till the product is developed and being adopted in the market?
I missed the last part. Can you come closer to the mic, please?
Sorry.
Yeah.
How do we okay? One of the challenges to work on product-based innovation on the grassroots level is time needed to develop a product is quite high. The time is quite high. So right. How can we sustain till the product is developed and deployed in the market? Thank
yes. You. I was talking to another group yesterday and I was telling them, there's a term we use, TRL, Technology Readiness Level. Mm-hmm. So when TRL is low, generally we don't transfer technology. We say, let us first bring it to TRL level 8 or 9, then only we will take the technology to market. But if cost of failure is low, then even the immature product can be brought to the market, particularly social market. So let's say there is a solution, a crop of okra, lady's finger, grown around cotton, will trap the pest. They both belong to the same family. The okra plant flowers 15 days earlier than cotton. So pest of cotton crop will be attracted by the lady's finger or okra crop on the border. And then you can uproot these plants and bury them in the ground, and your pest control cost has gone down. Now, let's say we have not done an experiment on it. But if I tell it to a farmer, what is the worst can happen? He may lose $2, $3 worth of seed of okra. That's all. If it doesn't work, go back to whatever practice you have. But if it works, go ahead. So many times, products that are not fully ready, but are better than what we have currently, can be started, can go ahead. I mean, we should not wait too long for a product to be finished. Some of the innovators have a tendency to put too many features in the product. They don't realize that version 1 is version 1 and version 2 is version 2. So we don't have to put all features and functions and form in one version. We can wait, we can let the subsequent version have more features. So tending to come to the market with simple solutions, not perfect solution, not ideal solution. Many of the innovators are perfectionists. They want to solve all problems of the world in one solution. And that delays the process. And sometimes they get frustrated that the customer is not paying me sufficient value for each improvement that I have made. True, customer may not appreciate each value, each feature that you have added. So we should try to learn from the grassroots innovations that simple solutions, frugal solutions with less frills should be allowed to go to the market if the cost of failure is low.
Okay, thank you so much. Other couple of questions?
Yes, please.
What's the difference between appropriate technology and grassroots innovation? In social entrepreneurship, I have seen these grassroots kind of innovations. Another question, what do you think are some practical ways that could be implemented in society to help reduce the gap between knowing, feeling, doing, and increase empathy?
Yeah, and last?
And increase empathy, to decrease the gap, practical ways to decrease those gaps. Yeah.
Yes. First question, appropriate technology movement started by Western European voluntary organizations who believed that poor deserved not optimal solution, but so-called suboptimal solution. And that was a great error of judgment. I don't believe in appropriate technology. There is no solution which should not be appropriate. What do you mean by, do you think that there are some solutions which are inappropriate? Of course, if they're inappropriate, then we don't talk about them. But why will a grassroots innovator develop a solution which is inappropriate by definition? So this appropriate technology is for outsiders who were trying to develop solutions in UK and then went to Africa to make them available to the workers. They failed miserably. The whole history of aid is written up now, and the cost of aid advisors who were trying to sell these appropriate technology solutions to the developing world, they took more money in consultancies than the money they spent in the solutions. So appropriate technology movement failed because this was triggered from outside, not from within. Grassroots innovation is from within. In every country, people are solving problems. And when I went to that place in slum, people are trying to find new uses of the various waste materials. And they're trying to find them frugally. So they are repurposing, they are redesigning, they're recycling, they're rejuvenating the waste and developing more value out of them. So we need to appreciate that grassroots innovation is a sort of response to an unmet need. And this unmet need has been recognized by the people themselves. Some of them are creative enough to take it forward. Coming to the second point, how do we generate empathy? The social innovations, again, grassroots innovations are also social innovations, but not social innovations are all grassroots innovations. All grassroots innovations are social innovations. All social innovations are not grassroots innovations. So for example, if a blood bank collects blood from the volunteers for people who have accident or some otherwise need blood, it's a social innovation. It's not a grassroots innovation. It may have been, requires a lot of blood bank, a lot of infrastructure. It may require a lot of doctors. It may require a lot of infrastructure. It may not be done something by the people themselves. It will require somebody from outside to, maybe from the volunteer organization, from the industrial organization, or from the medical side to do something. So there are a lot of social innovations. Somebody has designed a good wheelchair and wants to manufacture it and then give it at a subsidy to people. Good idea, social innovation. But again, it is not grassroots innovation, not come up from below. Ideas that come up from below are what we are talking about as grassroots innovations. So that point should be clear. So far as empathy is concerned, is a very good point. I think voluntary suffering, many people may not like this, but I'm going to say this. Voluntary suffering is a time-tested way. You know, you are having fasting nowadays, right? Ramadan is going on. Fasting is a voluntary suffering. Nobody forces you to fast. But if you want to fast, you are telling your body that I must live with less. And then you pray. You can pray with full stomach full, but no, every culture, every religion has provided for fasting because there are many people who can't afford full meal. How do you think about their problem? When you remain hungry, you probably can think about the pain that a hungry person goes through. So we must immerse ourselves in the life, in the pain of the people with whom we want to work. And there is no easy way I know other than voluntary suffering. So when we go for walks, we sleep on the ground, we eat the same food that people eat. We many times have no toilet, so we go to the nature's call for in the field, in agricultural field, as anybody else goes. We go through all that problem, everything. We drink the same water that they drink. We don't carry water with us. So the point is that when you immerse in the life of the people with whom you want to work and reduce the gap between our lifestyle and their lifestyle, then empathy happens. Some Vedana happens.
Okay, another question. Okay, that's a good question. Institutions like universities are often located away from the innovators spoken of.
Come closer to the mic, please. Come closer to the mic. Come closer to the mic. Yes. Yeah.
Innovations like universities are often located away from the innovators spoken of. What practical suggestions or examples are there to illustrate bridging this geographical gap?
Yes.
That's one question.
So in my institute, the course which is most difficult to enter into. There are 500 students and I take only 25 in this course called as Show the Afra. They have to do bidding. You know, we have a market for courses. So then when the students have to do bidding and they have 200 points for all the courses in a term, sometimes they have to bid 160, 180 points to get into one course, which means they will not get 5 other courses of their first choice, but they have no points to bid. Why do they do that? They do it because I take them to Himalaya, to the mountains, to the remote areas. And mind you, all the costs are paid by the students. Cost of transportation, cost of stay there, and also the gifts that we give to the school and wherever children. So what I'm trying to say is that we should design courses which will require in the term break students to go out and work with the slum dwellers, work with the marginal communities, work with the mountain people, work with the shepherds, with the pastoralists, with the mechanics. Look at their constraints, look at their opportunities, look at their skills, and find markets for what they're trying to do. And hopefully, they will be able to generate solutions that they could never have imagined inside the classroom. So one way is this. Second thing which I do is I take students for city walk. So we walk in the old city and then look at how people live in very small spaces. So what is the way society invents intimacy? You know, when you live in a multi-storied building, 20-story building, you may not know the name of the person who stays on the upper floor of your house, left side of your tenement or the right side of your house. So the higher the density in the buildings, sometimes we have less connection with people each other. But in villages and slums, everybody knows everybody else. They need to know how neighborhood economy works. Because in elite society, we all can order our products from the market and they deliver it directly to me. I don't need to borrow from my neighbor. But among the poor, neighborhood economy works. Not everybody needs to buy everything. So if you need to have pads for playing cricket, you can borrow from somebody else. Many things we borrow from each other and manage. If you want a bigger suitcase, only once in a year you need a bigger suitcase. You don't buy it always. You borrow from someone and take it who's not needing it at that time. So a lot of such borrowing takes place. A lot of reciprocity takes place. So my suggestion is that students must be encouraged to visit such places and people. And sometimes we can invite people from these places also. If it is not possible always, invite the people to the class with whom they can interact. So I invite innovators to my class, divide them into groups. Each group has to then solve the problem of that innovator. They have to look at supply chain, they have to look at manufacturing, they have to look at sourcing, they have to look at branding, they have to look at marketing, they have to look at all problems that that innovator faces. And then they have to work it out in 2-3 hours and then present it to them. And then innovators will give them feedback as to whether your idea is good or not. And if they find ideas good, they mention it, that this idea we never thought, it's a very good idea. I do that also in the class. So that is also another way to do that. If students can't go out because of the constraint of curriculum or timetable, then we bring the people to the class. That's another way we can do that. And it works, it works. It will always work, I'm sure.
Thank you. There are two interrelated questions. The first one is there is always a lack of funds in order to execute such niche ideas commercially. Any idea about how can we access funds to start such innovative businesses? Another one is, do you think community philanthropy could be a good solution to finance such innovations? And if so, how can we help encouraging communities to raise funds from within to support such ideas?
Well, I have tried 3-4 methods and I would like to mention them. When 13th Finance Commission is the one which gives funds from central pool of revenue to the states. So in a federal country, the Finance Commission decides the formula by which the taxes collected by the central government will be given to the state governments. So I talked to the chairman of the Finance Commission and requested him and gave a proposal that why can't every district have a district innovation fund? So 700 districts of our country got 2 crores, about how much? About $200,000, more than that, $250,000 per year for innovations and last mile investment. So one is that we should try to work on the policy front and try to leverage the data, the empirical situation. We should make a case that, look, we have these innovators who need funds, and getting funds from the central government all the time to the grassroots level will take a lot of time. So why don't we create such a fund at district level? And I would strongly urge that such a policy negotiation process must be taught to our students. Our faculty must write to the policymakers, make a policy paper and lobby for that. That is one. Second thing we tried also was that every member of parliament had some funds for their constituency. It is called MP Large Scheme, Member of Parliament Local Area Development Fund. So there also we tried to suggest that can every MP identify one innovation for his constituency and support it. So that means that the member of parliament are brought into the direct connection with the creative people, and then that may happen. It didn't work very well, but nevertheless it was tried. Third, of course, is that the financial institutions must be encouraged to create risk fund. And if you look at the fund, the loans that are written off for the large corporations, I mean, our country recently wrote off about 50,000 crores, huge money, billions of dollars for large companies. Small people need small money. I mean, it really doesn't matter if some of it doesn't come back. Our experience is that when we gave my Macro Venture Innovation Fund, 75% money came back, and we didn't have many people to supervise it. So it was unsupervised loans to innovators without any collateral, without any co-obligant, and 75% money came back. So when people are trusted, they pay back. High net worth individuals, there are many crowdfunding sites. More and more sites are coming up in every country. That's another area where we should try to pool money from the savings of high net worth individuals, people like me who have higher income and don't mind contributing $1,000 or $2,000 in an idea which is interesting. So we should pose such ideas to the clubs, to the groups of such people, high net worth individuals, and in the various associations, various clubs, and request them whether they would like to fund these ideas. That is another way in which this movement has to grow. We will have to experiment and try out. There are also CSR funds, corporate social responsibility in our country. 2% of the profit has to be invested in CSR. And innovations and incubators are one of the activities which is eligible for CSR fund, corporate social responsibility. So that's another area where we can work on. What was the other question you said? One was of funding and...
It's about the community philanthropy. Could it be a solution to fill this financial gap?
Yes, we must remember that many times the funds that are available for risky enterprises are small funds, and one can try to create pooled savings also to be used. You know, earlier we had pooled savings and then gave loan to people. Rotating saving and credit association. The chit fund, as it's called, some places they use the word chit fund. Different cultures have different words, but every country has this tradition of pooling small savings. You know, women have separate, men have separate. So if we have such saving associations, saving and credit association, ROSCA it is called, rotating saving and credit associations, rotating saving and credit associations. ROSCA is a very viable platform, which is time immemorial. For maybe 1,000 years it has been there. People save and then decide who is the one who they sometimes use discounting. So if collection is 1,000 rupees, somebody says, I will take it for 800 rupees. That means 200 rupees is a discount. He will pay back 1,000, but he will take it 800. 200 is a bonus, everybody gets benefit of that. Sometimes people say, no, we will not discount. All the 1,000 will be given to somebody who needs it most. So it becomes a solidarity fund. We should rediscover these funds, rediscover these financial instruments, and they can be very helpful for encouraging innovations at local level.
Okay, one final question.
Yes.
How can we connect Egyptian entities, innovators, NGOs, angel investors with those in India and elsewhere? What are
I don't think we should ask a question how and why. I think the whole purpose of this seminar is that we should connect. We should not make it whether, we should make it when. And to me, the connection has been forced today. It was tried earlier, but this seminar must lead to concrete action. So I would say that Honeybee Network also is working with UNDP acceleration labs in 78 countries. And today we had meeting with the Morocco Acceleration Lab. Yesterday we had with Palestine. Before that we had with Iraq. And in different countries, these labs exist. So if you go to Innovation Acceleration Lab platform of UNDP, you will find the list of all the labs. And we are very keen, Egypt also may have, and we are very keen that we use this network to leverage ideas which are coming from grassroots. So sometime we may be able to connect your idea with maybe Morocco or with Tunisia or maybe Palestinian region. And not all ideas need to go through market. Some are DIY, do it yourself, open source. And all of us, there is nobody listening to the webinar who has not used some content from the network, from the internet without paying for it. Correct? Unfortunately, sometimes I always say that developing countries have high download to upload ratio. We download a lot, we upload much less. So if we upload, we get this. And I would say that Indian innovators, Indian investors, Indian entrepreneurs, I will make these connections possible. I'm very keen to make this connection possible, to link the innovators with each other. You have so many good ideas. Egypt has is a rich history. All of us are inspired by the history of innovation that you have had. And there's no reason why this innovation, contemporary innovations are not as great as they were, just that we are not looking for that. So there are 4 things I would suggest every college to do. Set up a innovation club. You call it HBN club, you call it Gerard Center club. That is up to you what name you give. It must do 4 things. Share. So our database is with you. Share. Search innovations. Third, celebrate innovation. Invite the innovators to the classroom. I would request that every term, every month, invite 4 or 5 innovators on a panel discussion and let the class discuss that. And it should be an open platform. Anybody from any course wants to come and listen to the innovators, like a Friday afternoon session, Friday afternoon seminar, anybody can come and listen to that. So celebrate innovation. And the fourth is sense the unmet needs. Sense the unmet needs. People who have needs which are not met by the market or the state must be documented so that they will become the trigger for innovation. So spread, search, celebrate, and sense the unmet need. These 4 things that we can do, which can make our partnership between Egypt, India, and all other countries viable. And I'm hoping to learn a lot, and we'll bring out a special issue of Honeybee on innovations from Egypt, if all goes well, and if we can do that soon. And please write to your students who are under lockdown, that they could also talk to their grandparents and learn something from them, and look at their neighborhood and find somebody who has done something different. A letter from you, Ali, can go to all the students who are in lockdown, requesting them to do 3 things. Go and talk to your grandparents, learn something that they found, then they solve problem. How did they solve problem in their young age? Second, find out somebody who has done something different, even if it did not succeed. And third, any advice that the elders will give for society to become more sustainable. And you know that they should send it back, and we will publish some of the most outstanding ideas and honor them and invite them to the Festival of Inclusive Innovation for Social Transformation, FIST, Festival of Inclusive Innovation for Social Transformation. We will have this festival next year. We'll invite these innovators to India who will do this outstanding job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anil. It's been a real eye-opener as usual. And I promise you, I mean, we will have a chapter of the Honeybee at the Gerhard Center in the AUC. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a uphill, where the trend is really, as I told you, toward real classical innovation, classical entrepreneurship. But I personally think that what you're doing is makes a perfect fit with what we're doing at the Gerhard Center, and it makes perfect fit to sort of combine it with the community foundation and community platforms that we're trying to reach. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And my wishes to all the people who are on this seminar. They are welcome to write to me. I'm typing my email address here, anilg@gyan.org. And you can also do the WhatsApp to me, 91982501 98250-14437. So my number is here and my email is here. I don't know if it goes to everybody or not, but share them with others. And I'll be very happy to hear from people on WhatsApp or on email, and I'll try to answer every question, and if you have ideas to share, please do that. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Tomorrow we're gonna have
to all of you.
Sure. Tomorrow we're gonna have another interesting talk from Stu Hart. He's gonna talk about the new age of sustainable capitalism.
What time is it called?
It will be 3:30 Cairo local time.
What time?
3:30.
3:30 local time. Today was 2 o'clock, no? So later.
Yes. It's later than 2. It's 3:30. I'll send you the details. You're more than welcome to attend, and all the participants are more welcome to attend.
Yes,
thank you,
I will share that with everybody.
I'll
share all your announcements with my network.
Sure thing. Thank you, Anil, again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for great session.
Thank you.